now? Out in your garage or something?
Yeah, you always give Aristida a hard time about being in his cave. And so I decided that I should be in my cave, or he was in the attic. So
now out in your garage or something?
So it is a part of my garage. And yes, there is a snowmobile.
Perfect.
So, yeah, so there is some maybe sports things in here. It's kind of my man cave. It's an office. It's everything. It's just it's kind of a funky spot to hang out and work. And sometimes I'm more productive when I'm maybe in my cave. So that's where we are today.
Cool.
So no, some things don't change. Doesn't matter if you're in your cave or if you're not in your cave. You got to be contacting people. You've got to make appointments. You got to go see people. And so, a lot of times I used to just, instead of being in my office or in my cave, I just go get in my pickup truck and start making phone calls. And so I think wherever you got to find a good spot to say, hey, I got to line up things this week here and make things really productive. And
Eldon, who's summarizing at the end?
What's that?
Who is going to do the Q&A questions summarization at the end?
Summarization at the end?
Brad.
Scott and I'll take care of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Good job,
I think they're
Scott.
pointing
You
at
beat
each
him to
other.
the punch.
It starts really well.
Hey, you got a
So,
couple of
quick
minutes
draw.
on this. Arlie, why don't you tell us about what work ethic means to you, and what was your schedule when you started out in the prairies? What did it look like? And don't be afraid to tell people. I think you lived in your office for a little bit too.
Yeah, well, when we started, we sort of did 24/6. I tried to keep Sundays open for family, but I started 5 hours from home, opened an office in Saskatoon. So it would be every waking hour that I could be in front of people. I was in front of people, and then the off time I'd be listening to videos from Art and all of the locker room stuff going on with the company. And that hasn't changed a lot. I still start about 5 or 6 in the morning. My wife gets up and says, why do you keep getting up so early? Because I got to get something done today. And even though I'm sitting in the sun down in California, I seem to do as much as anybody that's at their office. And my office manager comes to work at 7. So I come to work just a little bit earlier because I want to get her some work and get her some cleanup work to do. So it's never changed. I mean, if you're going to work, you're going to get paid like you work. And if you don't work, you're going to get paid, they say part-time work, part-time pay. But to me, it's like I've got so many people that I love to service and help, as well as a lot of, agents that we're trying to get to the next level. And so work ethic is just like work is what I do. And then if somebody says, hey, let's go have a round of golf, I'll go do that. But I'm still engaged as much today as I've ever been, just a different location. When I decided a couple of years ago, it had to be 12 months of summer. I'm not going through any more snow. It snowed a couple of days ago in Calgary, so I'm still down here, but I'll head back next week. And then that is just dive into the office and then hit the road. We're introducing a new PD model, principal distributor model in Canada, and we're going to do road shows in 16 cities, I think it is. So Brad and myself and a few of the other $1 million earners are going to be on all those meetings and just launch it like we've never launched before. It's going to be a really good example of what we can do by changing a whole sort of philosophy. All the products are going to be new. So it's going to be an interesting time, and I've never been so excited. I think we can take this thing to new levels. So it's, it's just exciting to be involved in all of North America. I saw somebody comment the other day, oh, we got, not enough Canadians in here. Well, you got to step up to the plate. I think nobody's going to beg you to get on any of these things. If you step up to the plate and you got some work ethic and you got something to offer, I think everybody's ready to listen. So anyway, that's my quick intro verb. If you work hard, you'll make a fortune. You can't stop it because you're building people and you're building assets. You get paid on both of those and it never stops. So anyway, back to you guys.
Hey, it's 9:31. We'll kick her off, not keep people waiting. But hey, guys, welcome back. It's going to be another fantastic show. And anyways, just kind of want to lay out the groundwork on the Q&A side of things. Just please put relevant questions rather than use it as a comment box. And I know that's kind of tough to do when you're excited. And also this won't be on a replay mode. So do screenshots, take good notes. That's kind of what we got to do. So anyway, there's a lot of good things happening with this. This whole show is developed around the concept of you getting better, getting the tools in your hands from successful leaders in our company. And we are working hand in hand with head office to make things better. And one of those things that goes hand in hand with the securities business is servicing your clients. And that's a major part. And so just to give you a 1-minute update on some of that stuff, Mark Drake, I know that you're heavily involved with that. Why don't you share with us a little bit of what's going on that side before we kick it off?
Yeah, we're pretty fired up. There's been 29 field leaders that have been involved in a training over the last few weeks on the new CRM and RMC system, and I'm telling you, it's amazing. The new CRM system is going to be just absolutely incredible. It's going to be best in the industry, and that's not hype. I believe that with everything in me. So one of the things we're going to start next Tuesday, we're going to start our first of a weekly training that'll be taking place on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. We will get the Zoom link out on as many threads as we can that are in Telegram. We'll definitely put it on MPI thread. We'll just put it on LFIC. We'll put it on all the threads to make sure people are aware that that's going to be happening. It's going to be next Tuesday is going to be the kickoff for that particular training. It's going to be made up of just the panelists that you see here today, and so many others that are going to be involved in that from week to week. We're going to be talking about marketing and creating a list and building your database and best practices. There's going to be actual training from the home office, creators of the CRM RMC system. They'll be on every week with us to give us, insight on how to use the tool more effectively. We will also have field input on things that they're discovering along the way as they're using it. But it's going to be an awesome weekly training, and it's going to come to you from the greatest leaders of Primerica. So we're fired up about that, Eldon. So next Tuesday at 11.
Hey, thank you, Mark. I've never been more excited to continue to work with a great bunch of leaders. And so anyway, time to kick it off here. Ben, I know that you've got another great show lined up, and take it away.
All right, buddy. Thank you for the invite. Those of you that are taking some time away from the Masters right now, Tiger just lipped out on 5. Hardest hole in the course, but he's got to tap in on 6. So looking forward to getting back to that. So anyway, hey, real quick, just a few announcements before I bring a buddy on, Dave Harms. I know him and Josh are going to do a great job, but I just want to follow up on a few things. If you make $300,000 or more in income, please consider a donation to LFIC and MPI. For those of you that aren't aware, it's all 100% field funded. I know my wife and I have made several contributions. We've got several leaders that have. There's full transparency on what the money is going towards. And I know Rusty Crossland is going to coach the first 25 that invest $1,000 in the month of April. So I just want to make you guys aware of that. If you're not sure of how to donate or how it works, just contact Kim Haley. Mark mentioned the CRM. I'm getting more and more good feedback on that. So I just want to encourage you guys to learn how to do it. I think that's the key thing that Mark and Eldon and Brad were just really pointing out, is you've got to learn how to use it. So hop on that training on Tuesdays at 11. And if you were plugged into the STP stuff, hopefully it's a good carryover on that. So want to make you aware of that. The other thing I wanted to do is just follow up. I thought Tommy Lee did a great job, as I said last week, to be able to implement what he's learning from MPI to make a huge impact. Really, really important. The notes are on Telegram, review that. And what you guys have to do I know I mentioned this a couple times, but I want to reiterate this, is some of you will make the mistake of attending these Thursdays and then completely change the way you're doing things. That's not the answer. The answer is to get on a lot more appointments and to take some of the best from each speaker and just implement that right away, right? If I say something, if Dave Harms says something, if Josh Johnner says something today that you feel like is good, go ahead and implement that on your meetings today. Make it a part of what you do. Our business is all about words. It's all about how we communicate. It's all about how we interact with clients. And the one thing I'll say is, as you get good at those rollovers, make sure you are holding your client's hand through the paperwork process. It might not seem like a big deal, but them just feeling comfortable that you're handling the process. Do not have clients do conference calls on their own. That's a disaster. Don't have them do paperwork on their own. That's a disaster. Don't have them go to the bank and get a signature guarantee without you with them. That's a disaster. Hold their hand through the process. One of the things I say all the time is, met with a client this morning. She's with principal. My response was, listen, I take money from principal all the time. This is exactly what their process is going to be. We're going to we're going to go onto your principal account online. You're going to share your screen on Zoom, and I'm going to help you do the distribution right on their website, right? Why do I say that? Because if all my other clients are leaving principal, why would she be the one to stay there? But because I'm convicted, because I'm building relationship, and because I'm holding her hand through the process, it's going to be awkward for her not to move forward, right? Why would she be the one person in my client base or meets with me that wouldn't move their money, right? But you got to do the paperwork, it's change is uncomfortable, right? So you gave them the pain points, but make the transition comfortable, right? Someone also asked about my financial ministry. I apologize. I know I mentioned I'm going to share that. I'm not going to share it. I want to make sure everything that I share, because you guys I know will use right away, I want to make sure it's 100% compliant. So if I get it approved and go through that process, I'll make sure I post it. But until then, I'm not going to share anything. My recommendation, again, is to keep all of your workshops and your financial ministry stuff more story oriented, right? Share principles by telling stories with your existing client base is absolutely the way that you want to do it. Make it really, really interactive. Weave a lot of scriptures in it. Of course, if you're in the church world, faith without action is dead. So the idea is that they learn the principles and then they implement everything. I think it's important. We get a lot of questions on annuities. Again, just to go through my 2 cents, do your own research. But the first thing is you don't have to use an annuity at all, okay? Just because the one girl that shared the situation, between the pension and the Social Security, they needed very little income from investments. So you wouldn't have to use an annuity at all. You could do a managed account. Specifically with income, I use the Horizon Real Spend a lot. I like that strategy a lot. There's others that you can use. In terms of annuities, if it's between 60 to 65, I'll also oftentimes gear towards equitable, because they penalize you with AIG if you essentially take before 65. Sometimes you can take more money from other vehicles, so that way you don't have to touch that daily step up at 65. I often use the fixed index annuity for my clients, the AIG Power 10 that has the income plus, because they don't want any risk. They like the 7% bump up per year on the income. The market tanks, it doesn't affect them at all. That's a strategy I use. I personally don't use any of the structured capital strategies because I don't really like the flexibility. That doesn't mean it's a negative thing, right? It just depends on the situation. If it's non-qualified money, oftentimes I'll lean towards Lincoln and the I for Life. So again, depends on the client, depends on the age of the client, depends on the risk tolerance. But whether it's annuities or mutual funds, what you need to do is design a matrix where, hey, if it's this situation, this is what we do. If it's this situation, this is what we do, because then it's easier for your team and your newly licensed people to duplicate fast, right? That's the idea, okay? I got a question this week from a field leader that hasn't plugged into MPI at all, been more geared towards the Tuesday LFIC, and he looked on the Telegram and he felt overwhelmed. He said, where do I start? A lot of this is really, really good, but where do I start? What do I look at? Listen, for our new people, this is the most important thing, because sometimes we can give you almost too much information, but the key thing with securities is once you're in the right market, because you can be amazing and be in a bad market and you're not going to build a business. Okay. You have to be in the right market, and we can of course do more trainings on that. But the key thing is with its securities is just asking the right questions on that first appointment. Okay. So all the pain points are always the same. It could be service, it could be fees, it could be performance, it could be risk tolerance is not matching up. It could be their asset allocation is poor. It could be they have a lack of a strategy. It could be they're taking on too much risk, right? Whatever the pain point is, then more or less within a couple minutes, you can look at that statement, diagnose the pain point. So in other words, if I sat down with Brad and I'm looking at his account and it's very, very aggressive, and I can look at the rate of return real quickly and say, hey, Brad, for the risk that you're taking, it doesn't really look like you're getting rewarded in terms of performance. If I could show you a way to increase your rate of return, but also reduce your risk significantly, would you be interested in maybe working together, right? So I asked the question. And then I want to get a commitment. And then when I come back on the second appointment, I'm going to prove to him, whether it's through Morningstar or whatever illustration that shows I did exactly what I asked him, right? That's securities. Maybe it's a service issue. I might ask the question, well, Mark, what are you looking for in an advisor, right? How married are you to your current advisor? If I could show you some better strategies to reach your goals. And then you wait for the answer, right? But those of you that think that you're going to gather statements and then just go back to the office and come back, maybe 1 out of 3 will do business with you. But 2 out of 3, you need to get really, really good at what are the pain points, because to do more volume, it's not, I haven't had an advisor for 40 years, but I have $10 million. That's not the way it's going to work. Most of the time, the people with the most assets are already going to be working with someone else. So why are you different, right? And it's because your service is better. It's because the relationship's stronger. It's because you're a master at fixing issues and fixing problems and diagnosing the pain points, right? These are all simple things that can be really learned in a week's time if you're willing to invest time, right? We just heard from Arlie, was working 6 days a week, almost 24 hours a day to build his business. And I bet if I ask him today, does he regret any of that? He probably will say no, right? But it's amazing to me that people won't invest just a little bit of time to get good at this. It doesn't really take that long, okay? In terms of the markets, the Fed minutes came out yesterday that said they're going to be really aggressive to try to slow inflation. You saw the market, of course, pull back from that, right? Because again, we've had a very accommodative Fed. Unfortunately, the market's very manipulated by the Fed, and interest rates are very influential. I thought one of the best quotes from Buffett in 2013, interest rates are to asset prices what gravity is to the apple. They power everything in the economic universe. When there are low interest rates, there's a very low gravitational pull on asset prices. Another way that I like to say it is money will go to where it's treated best. So as interest rates go up, it of course can have a very negative impact on stocks. It can have a very negative impact on companies trying to refinance their debt. It will have an impact on, of course, the interest rate when people buy a house, when they refinance. It's going to have an impact on the yield on bonds. It really impacts every single thing. That's why I talk about rates so much. So we do have to keep that in mind as we move forward. Is what are the impacts of raising rates? Yes, inflation's bad, but what are the other ripple effects if the Fed starts to be less accommodative, right? Will we see a recession? What will happen? Again, I want to get Dave on here. I won't get into too much detail, but it's going to be very, very important. We've gone from 150 basis points on the 10-year to basically 260 basis points in a matter of a couple months. Of course, you've seen the impact in the bond markets, you've seen the impact in equities, so continue to keep an eye on that. The other thing, as we kind of wrap up my portion here before we bring Dave and Josh on, is I would just encourage all of you to really reflect what adjustments and changes do you need to be making, right? We've got basically a quarter in the books. It's amazing how quickly time goes. But I find people will go months and unfortunately years without making adjustments in their business. And I don't understand it, right? I've been watching the Masters most of today. These are the best golfers in the entire world, but they practice relentlessly. They make adjustments relentlessly. They're always tinkering to get better. And for whatever reason, we've got this lack of humility, right? Somebody will be stuck at 50 grand, 100 grand, 300 grand, whatever the number is, and they won't ask a coach because we all have blind spots, right? I can't fix my swing on my own, but I can get a coach to help me with it, right? So if the best golfers in the world need coaches, it's amazing to me that in business, a lot of us will continue stuck at whatever income and production levels that we won't ask for help. We won't make adjustments. We won't make changes. I find most people are really terrible at setting goals. And what I mean by that is they throw a goal out to impress their upline or their peers, but they don't take any time to figure out what's the price that I have to pay to hit this goal. Do you schedule your success? Talk about block calendar all the time, but to me, there's nothing more important for you to be successful in Primerica is to you manage your time and you pre-schedule your success. Success is never an accident. For me personally, my goal is $1 million a week in volume in my base. I'm behind that. I'm going to catch up here in the next 2 months and be ahead of schedule, but I've got to make the adjustments to do that. So don't continue, like if you don't like your production year to date, then make some adjustments now so you can finish the year really, really strong. But hey, it's a pleasure of mine to introduce, I consider a buddy of mine. It's funny, a couple of years ago, I just basically crashed their couch, invited myself, I think, because the British Open was on and I wanted to watch Tiger Woods. Unfortunately, he came in second that week. But anyway, I've enjoyed getting to know him and his wife. They're amazing people. I think they're some of the best communicators that we have all in Primerica. Dave, thanks for hopping on today, buddy.
Thanks so much. And really excited about what MPI has done and you know, with Ben and all the top leaders, the ripple effect that we've been having through the company is staggering. I mean, me personally, I know I got an extra 2 million of investments that I would not have gotten if we wouldn't have been plugged into this training. So I hope we're getting all of our securities licensed people on this. It really is amazing, and it's intimidating for me because like these are like my heroes of the company and that do so much more than us. So to even be speaking on this is pretty awesome. And but I wanted to just talk to you because I you know, there's a lot of people on this call here that are new, that are getting started, that maybe just you know, maybe even been in the business a while. What this is a boot camp that I did, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 months ago with our team. And so I thought, you know what, that'd be the best thing we could do is just cover a training that we do with our new securities licensed people. And I called it Massive Passive Income because we really do change clients' lives and it changes our families' lives. You think about, I did a $560,000 rollover that just hit yesterday or 2 days ago, but in 2008, he put in 480,000 into a fixed index annuity. When we rolled it over 12 years later, it was $560,000. See, if we don't get good at this, if we don't train our teams, if we don't build a massive org, get hurt and they're going to get taken advantage of. And that money with us would have been $1.5–2 million had they invested with us. So I hope we really get serious about building a big agency to help clients do that. How did I meet that client? I recruited somebody who recruited somebody who recruited somebody, and it was their mom and dad. Right. So it's just so important that we build a big organization in addition. So these were the questions that I asked on the training. I was like, what holds you back? And it's so interesting. And I think all of us had these fears. We had these doubts when we first started in the business. We all probably were a little scared. Like I was 24 years old when I started this business. And I was like, first of all, who's going to invest with me? I'm 24 years old. And then I was like, what if they do? That's even worse. What if I lose all their money? And so I think if we understand that our new people are feeling those things, how do we give them confidence? How do we give them the strategies that they can go? You know, Mark Margisani asked me at one time, he said, Dave, are you ever going to do securities? And I said, I don't think so. It doesn't seem like you make any money in that. Right? Because I was just doing $25 PACs and you making 2 cents or whatever. And he was like, well, if you did make money, would you be willing to do securities? I said, yeah, I think I would. And all of a sudden, I'll show you the story here in a second. But, you know, our second year in the company, we made $80,000 as regional leaders. And it came through securities. And I'll tell that story here in a little bit. But people are afraid. They don't think they know enough. Right? They think they're too young. They think that they have to be some sophisticated genius, right? They don't know what they're doing is the real bottom line. Once they know what they're doing, then they realize all these different things. I wore my Tiger red today because, you know, they paid Tiger Woods like $10 million when he was 21 years old. Why? Because he was good. They didn't care how old he was. They knew he was good. So age doesn't matter. It really just matters. Do you know what you're doing? And here's a couple of things that have really helped us build that confidence and belief. Isn't it interesting that if you're confident and believe in something, there's very little objections in all areas of your life, by the way, right? Not just investments, but certainly in the investment business. If you're hesitant or you're just not quite as confident as you need to be, guess what happens? They don't move the money. They keep it probably in a way less good spot for them because we weren't confident and we didn't have that belief. So one of my favorites is Nick Murray. Favorite book is Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth by Nick Murray. This was a game changer. I probably read this, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And it was a game changer for me because when it talked about, well, we read the book, but it also talked about when the client has 1 or 2 years of expenses in cash, then the ups and downs of the market, even if they're in retirement, even if they're in equities in retirement, it's not that big a deal. If the market goes down more than 20%, they start taking out of their cash bucket. Then when the market comes back, then they start taking from their investments again, and you can replenish that cash. So I was just like, man, that makes so much sense to do that. And he has monthly investment newsletters that are phenomenal, right? Every month, it's like up to date, real world situations, everything that's coming up. It's very inexpensive. It's a couple $100s a year, I think, for that. So that may help. That may give you a lot of confidence and really help, get great at your business. The other thing is something simple is just on your phone. I just use whatever the stock app is on your Apple phone or whatever phone you have. And I have the Dow Jones. I have the S&P, I have the NASDAQ, I have Primerica stock and Bitcoin. So it gives and I have a few others, but if you just tracked a little bit, it's not like you have to know everything about what's going on in the market, but you do need to know some of the things that clients might say, well, what about this? Or what about this? And if you say, shoot, is that really happening? You may be in trouble, right? But if you just knew a little bit of it, just had a little bit of talking points about it, you're going to be more confident. You're going to be more up to date, and you're going to be able to help service your clients. It was interesting this morning. So I was walking that client through since their money hit, and we put it in managed accounts. I got them on the TD site, and we were showing them how to, read it and, go over the different things. They got 1.3 million with me total between the wife and the husband now. And they didn't know what the Dow Jones was. They kind of knew what the S&P 500 was. They didn't really know what the NASDAQ was. So just explaining those three things, they all of a sudden, wow, I didn't know that, right? And this is a client that has $1.3 million. So just knowing a little bit of talking points is going to go a long ways. again, I think it's critical that all of our securities licensed people are on MPI every Thursday at 12:30. And Mark Marchesani taught us this. We're builders who do securities, right? You can recruit, train, and develop a massive army, and you can do securities. It is not exclusive. It's not one or the other. And what you'll find is that I think it's more fun to recruit and train people who now get great at securities than even doing the securities yourself. But however you want to build your business is wonderful. But if we can change our mindset and say we're recruiters, we're builders who do securities, and there is money everywhere. Let's all say there's money everywhere. Right? We say that all the time in our training because there really is money everywhere. And I wanted to introduce you, and I'll finish up with a couple of things after Josh speaks. But I wanted to just introduce you to one of the greatest people I've ever met in my life. So fortunate to have been able to, I field trained him. He was a school teacher when we met each other, and I was able to take him on the appointments and get him started. And now to see the man that he's become, the father that he's become, they homeschool 3 incredible daughters, and the lifestyle that they have because he got great at his skills. Right? He's one of my best friends. He's so fun to be around. And I can't wait from you to hear from near-term $400,000 earner, the great Josh Johnner.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. And thanks for the opportunity. I'm with Dave. I think there's 1,800 people on here. So, certainly honored and the opportunity to speak with you guys. A lot of you guys I've looked up to for years, and we've just gotten really serious about our investment business, really just the last 5 years. But one thing we've done in the last couple months is these MPI trainings on Thursdays is set in my schedule. Something really important has to come up because I take a lot of what Ben says to kick it off. Saves me so much time, and I can regurgitate that to my clients or during conversations throughout the week. You heard him last week say he feels like it's a bad week if they don't do $1 million in a week. So we did $1 million this last week in investments just in preparation. So I felt like I was worthy to speak to you guys today, and I'll talk a little bit about how I found those people. But our vision. This is my 20th year in Primerica. Securities play a big role in me and my family getting free. Like Dave said, I was an elementary teacher, so helping people and making a difference for people has always been important to me, and I found that in Primerica. But I came here to get financially free and freedom with my time. I listened to a $1 million earner speak probably 5 years ago, and he works 5 hours Mondays, 5 hours Tuesdays, 5 hours Wednesdays, and I go, that sounds great. I like screwing off. I love hiking. I love mountain biking. I love going to the lake. My oldest daughter wanted to do a blacksmithing class last week, and we learned pounding on hot metal for 3 to 4 hours is not for us, but we tried it. But doing a lot of securities and helping out clients is a big part of us getting free. So we're very clear on our goals with AUMs, with PACs, with trails for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Because for me, that equals freedom of time and money, so we can go do the things that we really are excited about and change our families' lives. And we're going to have a lot of clients, and we're going to change their lives. And I love helping families become healthy financially. So one of the things that I've done is really gotten serious about our client service. To be honest with you, I did a poor job of it for probably my first 10, 12, 13 years. It was just about accumulating clients, not really servicing them. But once I got serious about it, then really our investment business took a whole nother life of its own. So let me share with you guys really quick, just a 3-slide presentation on what I talk about with client service. So let me pull this up for you. And we've tried all different kinds of things with client service. We've done dinner seminars, client appreciation dinners. We've done workshops. We've tried it all, and they all work. It's just finding what gets you the most results. And so first of all, why client service? I want to be conscious of the time here, but first of all is retention, keeping our clients. One of the questions I ask when I meet a new person is, and they have money, I always ask them, when's the last time you heard from the person that's handling your money guy, your money lady, your financial advisor? And that tells me a lot about what kind of service they've gotten. And then I followed up with, well, how do you feel about that? If they've never heard from them, if they heard from them for, once a year. So retention to keep my AUMs, my PACs, the trail income is important. And then relationships. So these relationships are going to be a referral source for me forever. Okay, so keeping that client service tight so they can send me all their friends, family, neighbors. And then this was, I read this years ago and I looked it up in preparation. It's still the same. The average person switches jobs every 4 years and they'll have 12 different jobs in a lifetime, right? So if that's a potential of 12 rollovers for one client, right? So if I'm not in their life, right? If I haven't talked to them, I'm going to miss out on that easy money, rolling that over. So here's how I do client service, or a few things that I've done. I do the rep marketing center. Some of those are on autopilot. I've got the birth dates. I've got the holidays on autopilots. And about every quarter, I just click one of them, where it's the 3Ds or something I click. So I get an email out to them. It's a soft, easy way to get me in. Get an email out to them. It's a soft, easy way to get me in front of my clients or have them see my name. I physically mail those solution brochures out to my clients. And I know that they're on autopilot with the email, but as I talk to some of my clients, they never open the email, and they may not open the client solutions, but them just seeing me and my wife's picture, my contact information. In January, I did a $200,000 investment, and I stopped by the guy's house who one of my clients, it's his brother, and my client solutions mailer was sitting on his table. I said, "Oh, how'd you get that?" He goes, "No, I was just over for the holidays with my brother, and I was talking to him about him retiring." And he goes, "Here, call this guy." And he handed it because it has all my information on there. So every quarter I get a call from somebody who knows somebody that's on that mailing list. And then inside of there, I'll usually put a letter. I'll put a client solutions letter so I can cross-sell there. I'll do a mortgage letter, IRA season, maxing out their IRAs. I'll put a referral letter, and I'll just put that inside of there. And when my kids were young, I put my babysitter to work, and she would staple those together and put stamps on them. Now you have office managers, or you can have your kids do them, but it's a really easy way to get something out to clients. I do a lot of personal calls. I love leaving messages, and I tell them, you don't necessarily have to call me back unless you have concerns or questions. I just want to make myself available for you. If you do have any questions, if there's anything I can do for you, if not, I'll reach out to you again in another 3-4 months or a few months and check in with you guys again. So they don't feel like they have to call me back, but them just hearing me leave a message, or if your office manager does that. And then I schedule meetings with people and sit down with them. And then that's where I can find the money out there. And the last thing I'll cover here is kind of what I do when I meet with people. And some of the simple things, talk about their goals. I always ask them, what are some of your goals? Has anything changed since last time we met? Do you have any concerns? Those are easy opening questions when I sit down with people. And I heard Arlie Larson talk about this a few months ago, and I actually just muted the MPI, and I just sat down and I used the FIN number as kind of the center point for my client service reviews, where I focus on, are they doing what they need to do for their family to get financially free? And then and rarely people are doing what they need to do. And I always tell them, you can never have too much money in retirement. So we talk about increasing their PACs. Is there any more money that they can put to help their family get financially free? And then also, is there any money to invest? Is there anything out there? Then you find in-service rollovers. Did they switch jobs, inheritance, kids, divorces? I just did a $450,000 investment with a client this week, and I just called him up and I just asked him, "Hey, how are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I just switched my jobs a month ago." And he had a $450,000 rollover, has another $113,000 in company stock, and so stopped by. That was easy. Reached out to another client. She was going through a divorce. So that was $276,000 of half of her ex-husband's 401k. So there's just so many people, but if we're not in their lives and they don't see us, hear from us, then we miss that. Somebody else is going to be reaching out to them. And then it's another opportunity for us to get referrals. And I always ask for referrals from anybody, from everybody I sit down with. It's either, my goal is to get 100 new clients this year. Do you know of anybody that may have switched jobs? Do you know of anybody that's serious about retiring? Do you have any conversations about people that don't know what a Roth IRA is? And I'll have different ways to ask people. And then I close all of my review meetings and client service meetings with this, I just put on a big smile and I just tell them, hey, our relationship means a lot to me and I'm excited we're working together. And I stand up and I stick my hand out, look them in the eye, and they love it. They smile, they say nice words back. The wife hugs me, or we leave and it gets me up, moving in the right direction, which is on to the next thing and finding more people. And I hope you're smiling and I hope you're having fun. I'm not a clown, but we're having fun. I mean, the clients I met with last night, the guy gave me a whole bag of jerky, homemade stuff. And these guys, I'm in the garage looking at motorcycles. It's a fun business when you're working, when you're out in front of people, and love helping people. So thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate the opportunity.
So proud of you, buddy. You have come a long ways from being a school teacher and now a financial professional. And dude, your PowerPoints, I mean, I remember when they were just one color. I mean, that was really impressive. I don't know who put those together for you, but that was really, really good. And so you can see there is money everywhere. And I heard Ben say, I don't know, a few months ago, he said, most people quit Primerica before it gets easy. And I hope that's not you. I hope, because it really is amazing. You hear Josh's stories of this 200,000 came in, this 400,000 came in, that happens the longer you're in the business, the more clients, the better service, all the things. You're getting phone calls all the time. Kurt said he hasn't prospected in like 20 years or something because he has all this inbound thing. So once again, there is money everywhere. And, where do you find it? I hope you're all doing either an F&A input. We do both. $B Smart is phenomenal. It uncovers assets. It does a lot of cool things. We still do F&As and we still put that in writing. We still show them their FIN number. We still show them their debt stacking. We still put a financial needs analysis together, and it uncovers all the assets that the clients have. Have a very simple securities presentation. Right. It is challenging. The more you know, the more you feel you have to share. That's a big mistake, right? The more you know, the more simple you have to make it. Now, there's going to be a 1 in 100 or something, or 1 in 50 that are really detailed and want to know some more stuff. So you probably need to know your stuff, but be very careful to keep it real simple for your clients and your new recruits to show them how simple it is to be you. One of the things that we do, or we've been doing for the last couple of years, is, on the LFIC, you can do it in chapters where you can just send the 5-minute money concepts part of that video. And so we send that in an email after I meet with every person we meet with. Really enjoyed meeting with you. Just have a little, I cut and paste a thing. I include the 5-minute part of the money concepts. I include the How Many Works book, and I include a referral sheet in every email. That might help. It positions you very professionally, lets them know they could forward that money concepts to somebody else. They could write down their referrals. They could forward the How Money Works book to their kids. I mean, there's just a lot of value in getting things in people's hands. So when they leave you, they have something to look over, something to read, something to remember you by. Then I'm going to go over this how to close questionnaire. This is the story I was telling you about. 25 years ago now, I don't even know if I had 10,000 of assets under management, just new, license or whatever. And all of a sudden, one of the guys, Gary Ferguson, he was an accountant in town and he had 300 tax clients. And so he calls me and he says, we have a client of mine just sold a property in the mountains and they want to meet and roll over. And it was $500,000. Now back then, 500,000 was like $10 million to me. I was like, oh my gosh, 500,000. And he said, I got the perfect guy. He's a professional. He'll take good care of you. And he was talking about me, right? Here I am, 25 years old, never done more than probably a couple $100 PAC. But that week, I probably spent 40 hours, listening to calling wholesalers. There was a guy, I can't even remember his name. He's retired 20 years ago, and Jim Holland. And so I watched a VCR tape of him, and I stop and rewound, stop, rewound, stop, rewound, stop. I mean, I was ready, and I put this together 25 years ago. Now, since MPI, I've added 2 additional questions, which I'll show you. But for 25 years, I've just been, think of this. I'm going to just role play with you. So Mr. and Mrs. Johnner, really want to do what's right for you right from the very beginning. So before we even talk about specific funds, I'd like to know what your needs are, what your time horizons are, what your tolerances are. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Isn't that a beautiful way to open it up? Because most people go in all guns blazing. I got this hot fund. I got this. You know, you're screwed. Let me show you. Right. But if you just start out with, hey, before we talk about specifics, want to know what your goals, your needs, they just like, oh, that's great. So when it comes to investing this money, what is it that we're investing for? And I put is it because most of the time you already know it's for retirement, or maybe they're talking about the kids' education, whatever you got introduced. So if I know, is it strictly for retirement, or is it for new house, new car, anything else? Nope, it's strictly for retirement. Okay, great. And what are some of the frustrations in the past when it comes to in regards to investing? And they might say they haven't heard from their agent. They might say they lost money. They might say, you know, I just don't know what it is. Whatever it is, again, just a beautiful series of questions. And I don't use all of these. I use as many as I need. But these first three, I ask first four, I ask every single time. So have you looked into anything else to do with this money? So then you find out are you in competition with another agent? Are you in competition with the bank? Or is there any other things that we need to consider? So what is most important to you in investing this money? Again, they might say low risk, better returns, better service, whatever. Elaborate on that. How do you mean? So do you see how it's just a beautiful conversation? And I have this on a sheet of paper, by the way. I have it on a sheet of paper. If I'm meeting with them live, I have my sheet of paper sitting right in front of me. It's facing me, but it's just like an F&A input sheet, isn't it? We fill it out, we write it all out, we do all that right in front of the client. So I have this sheet of paper right in front of me. I'm filling it out, I'm writing it down, I'm taking notes, I'm paying attention, I'm really listening. That's probably the big flaw of most people. They don't listen, right? I'm an introvert, so I would rather not talk. I'd rather listen. And so that's actually served us really well in the business. And then these were the questions that Ben, I added from Ben, is how confident are you in your retirement strategy? Not that confident, you know, whatever. What are you doing to prepare for the coming downturn? So I sat down with a pharmacist here, you know, that right around the corner, and that was a $600,000 rollover about a year ago, just asking that question. I had all this stuff prepared. I compared he had Ameriprise, and I had all my comparisons, everything already. Didn't even show him one thing. I asked him these questions and he rolled the money. Didn't even know what we were putting it in, really. I mean, we did manage accounts there too, but so how often do you talk to or meet with your current advisor? Josh had mentioned that. So once you find out that, it's like it's shooting fish in a barrel. They're going to move their money. They're going to want to do business with you. So my goal is very simple. It's to help you reach your goals. I don't want you to do business because you like me, even though I want you to. I don't want you to do it because of who we are. I want you to do it because we can provide a solution to get you and your family where you and your family want to go. So in my mind, again, don't change what you're doing, but if this will help, if this gives you some ideas, I don't have to think when I meet with people, and I don't care if they have 10,000, 100,000, a million, it's just zeros. It's the same strategy. It's the same process. It's the same everything. So do you have any questions or comments so far? And then I'll either show them a securities presentation, a managed account presentation, whatever the situation, needs, or a lot of times you don't show them anything, you just do the money. And then here's my close that I've been saying for 25 years. If you could find a company so I've done all these things. If you could find a company to do all these things for you, could you feel comfortable with us handling your money? And if you would feel comfortable, I'd like to take that trust on your part and do what we need to do with it. And they do it. I remember being 25 years old. It's $500,000. So I went through this with the client. And back then, and it just pains me. I wish they could make in turbo apps the sound of a check being ripped off. Right? They wrote a check for $500,000. I'm 25 years old. I was like, I mean, the good thing my desk was like covering up my legs because I have like a duck underneath there. I'm like, oh my gosh, they just wrote a check for 400,000, right? And I was all calm, cool, collected. They walked out the door, and our office, Kelly was around the corner listening to the whole thing, made sure they were down the hall, down the elevator. And we were like, oh my gosh, right? We made like $12,000, you know, right there. And then literally the very next week, I was field training another guy who his in-laws had 500,000. So the moral of the story is, how much time did I spend getting prepared for the first one? A lot, probably about 40 hours in 1 week, getting prepared, putting this worksheet together, I was rock solid, ready to go by the time I met with them. But then how much time did I spend a week later? Nothing. I did the same exact thing, and I've done at least, and this is little compared to a bunch of people on the call here, but I've done at least $1 million a year personally for 20 years. Right? Have 60 or 70 million of personal assets under management. Again, it's embarrassing saying those numbers in front of this group, but you know, that and you know, our passive income on securities is like 260 grand a year just from securities. So let me show you a couple of other things, and then we'll open it up to questions. So another reason on how to get the money, and again, whatever your RVP, whatever funds they think are right, is this the best thing? I don't know, but I do know when new people get licensed and they don't know where to put the money, that creates fear, and then they just don't know what to do. So these are the ideas that we teach them. Is if they're just starting a PAC, again, use whatever fund family you think is best, but Dynatech, and now there's a CB Select fund that we've been using as well that could be, you know, mix and match with either the Dynatech small and mid or the growth. But if they're just starting a PAC, that's what we tell them to do. If they have a little bit more and larger portfolio, could be $10,000. That, again, we can't assume that our large is a client's large. If that's all the money they have, that's large to them. Right? So we split it up 25% in those. If they're in retirement, we split it up that way. Right? And so you don't have to think when you meet with a client, that's what we're going to do. When it comes, you know, data collection, F&A input sheet. And then, as Ben mentioned earlier, do a three-way call. Every time you do a rollover, do a three-way call with the company, not the broker, not the agent, the 800 number. There's no fear in that either, because they're just a order taker. They're a $15 an hour employee. They're going to just do whatever we ask them to do. There's not going to be a whole lot of objections or trying to keep the money or anything. You're just calling the 800 number, and then just make sure you ask, what is, when rolling money from your firm to ours, what is required? And they'll tell you they have their paperwork. We accept your paperwork, needs a signature guarantee. You know, just make sure you get all that information with the client. Again, like Ben said, don't have the client do that by themselves. Do that with them. And it's so easy, especially with 401ks. It's the greatest thing. In like 5 minutes, you do it over the phone, they send it, there's no paperwork. I mean, it is awesome. So, so that's exciting. And then with managed accounts, again, these are the strategies that we've bought into. We believe in them. We're convicted about them. We know a little bit about them. And so if it's 25 to 50,000, we're using Lockwood US Aggressive. I don't know if y'all knew this, but Kurt was a huge proponent. He's basically created that Lockwood account, and he like consults the things, because I mean, it's just so incredible. So if it's 50 to 100,000, Lockwood, US Aggressive, and RNC equity, it's a nice combination. It's a nice blend of growth, nice blend of equity and income. If it's 100 to 150,000, we use ClearBridge Dividend Strategy and AGF Global. If it's 150 plus, we use AGF, ClearBridge Strategy, and Lockwood US Aggressive. And if it's 150 and they're a little more conservative, maybe they're in retirement, those are the ones we use. Again, are these the perfect portfolios? I don't know, but I feel good about them. I feel passionate about them. I know about them, and I know what I know. So the last thing I'll wrap up with is building an army, right? How to pass Kathy's the greatest at teaching people how to get securities license. So anything she says would take precedence over mine. But what we have found, and think of this, you know, I wasn't even serious about the business 26 years ago and whenever we started, and I got fully licensed within 90 days because that's what Mark told me to do. right? So I think our people are going to do whatever we tell them to do. So as soon as they pass that life test, let's get them a securities license. It's not that hard. Now that SIE came into play, it's just an extra test. It's not that it's any harder. It's just an extra test. But if they study properly, so what this is, and I'll post this on the LFIC or I'm on the MPI, it'll be a little cleaner than this. It's, if they go on Kaplan on their own, it'd be like sending your client back to their agent to see if they want to move the money. That is not user friendly. It's awful. It's too much information. So what we've done is if you look at the Kaplan website, this is what you'll see when you get in there. We think the Edge videos are better than anything Kaplan has on there. Again, my opinion, take it or leave it. In the calendar, if they followed the calendar, it would say you need 3.5 hours a day for a month to pass. Well, I'm an A personality. That would not have worked. It's too much and it's not necessary. Don't use the important information. It's not that important. Prepare the class notes, follow along with the Edge videos somewhat, and the answers to the quiz are on the end. So it's just telling you how to use the thing. But here's the biggest key. Somebody came up with 40 to glory. They might even be on MPI, but it's just the idea of taking tests over and over and over, and you're learning way more than you realize. See, we're in the test passing business, not you're going to learn all you need to learn while you're on appointments, while you're doing real life stuff. It's just like college, not that I've ever been, but if you went to college, apparently you don't use any of that information in the real world anyways, right? Same thing. You don't use a lot of that stuff you're studying, but in the real world, you'll learn it as you go. So if you practice your securities QBank questions, what we like to do is combine the Edge videos with the QBank questions. So they watch the first section of the Edge videos, then they can customize their test and make sure that when they're doing the test, that it shows the score as you go and shows the answer explanation. So then you got to click those two boxes. I wish it just automatically did it, but you click those two boxes and then they can see the right answer. And I like to do it in 25 or 50 questions at a time so that it's not, it's not grueling. It's not overwhelming. You take 25 questions and you stand up, get a drink of water, do some push-ups, come back, take another 25 questions. So you keep engaged while you're studying. And then the perform section, maybe they want to take one of them at the end if they want. But again, I don't like them taking any test that doesn't tell them why it's right or wrong immediately. That's the only way I've passed any of my tests. And the study tools, last thing, the quick sheets are very good. And you'll see when you're on the Kaplan site, the quick sheets is like 3 or 4 page summary of all the key points. Have that out, highlight that, take notes, really, dig into that. So I hope that was helpful. And I'll just tell one last story and then we can open up to questions is, I never passed any test on the first try until my Series 65. Now we didn't have these strategies. We didn't have all the tools back then, but the 65 is the only test I passed on the first try. Why? Because I knew I had millions to roll as soon as I passed. So miraculously, my brain was very receptive to learning. So if you want to learn, if you want to pass this test, you're going to knock it out. It takes an hour or two in the morning, hour or two at night for 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 but don't do it longer than 2 or 3 weeks for the SIE and then 2 weeks for the 6, probably a week and a half for the 63. And you just pound it out early in the morning, late at night. So it doesn't disrupt your building, doesn't disrupt your family, and do something big. So that's what we have for you here today.
Awesome, man. I love the questions. I'm assuming you're going to post your questions on the Telegram chat because they're very similar to the questions that I asked, right? And Josh, I love that question. How often do you meet with your current advisor? When is the last time you talked to he or she? Because the answer to that sometimes just leads right into doing business. So I think it's perfect. And I think just the idea of keeping it simple. Some of you go into appointments and you're presenting, convincing, trying to explain different portfolios before you even get to know the client. So you just ask the right questions and listen. And to me, that opens all the doors to a great securities business The last thing I want to do before I bring Brad on is some of you think that your clients are automatically going to call you when they leave a job or they're ready to retire. Okay, they're not. So that's the point of a follow-up system. You know, you've got a good follow-up system. It's going to uncover so much gold and so much easy business, because all these reviews just lead to additional rollovers, inheritance money, transfers, because they're not going to proactively call you. I feel like my service is pretty darn good. They're still not going to call me. So you initiating the follow-up is the key to unlock easy Primerica. So I thought that's really, really important to emphasize that again. Go ahead, Brad. Do we have any good questions?
Josh, I thought that was a great idea. You continue to mail out the solutions newsletter rather than just automatically going electronic and look, you're picking up money right away. And I think a lot of people look at that and go, yeah, but it's, how much money for a stamp and the work to do it. And I guess that kind of brings, somebody asked, how often are you meeting with your clients? So it's a question that you ask, when's the last time you met with your advisor? Well, how often would you recommend that we meet with our clients?
Great question. First, I asked them, how often would you like to meet? How often would you like to hear from me? You know, I had one client, she put on a big smile and she says, never, I'll call you if I need you. I said, well, I'll call you, once a year. Most people, it's once a year. Some are quarterly. I've got a lady's got 1.3 million. She likes to meet every quarter and it's worth it to do that. But usually I'll reach out to them at least by phone every 3 to 6 months. I'll initiate either a phone or Zoom or in-person meeting for 30, 45 minutes, at least once a year. I want to get in front of them. And, a lot of our older clients with those solution mailers, they still remember opening up the newspaper. They like having paper in their hands. They may aren't checking their emails. And so they like that. And I think the content is good and it's easy. But again, if they don't open it, just seeing my picture with my information on there is just a soft way and an easy way to get my name and my face in front of my clients.
Yeah. So John, how long you been in the business now?
It's my 20th year.
Dave?
26.
So what would you do different today knowing what you know now? What would you do different back then knowing what you know now? What would you do different in your investment business?
Yeah, in the investment business, the number one thing is I would have followed up with our clients. My first 10 years, I did a terrible job too. I was blowing and going, recruiting and training and doing all that. And I just never was taught, never learned it. I can't say that, it's my fault. I just never did it. So I would have followed up and had a system in place right from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I can echo that too. Client service would have been a big deal. Would have, probably twice or 3 times the AUMs. But, for me, and Dave said it too, the fear, it's one thing to sell a life insurance policy and they're probably not going to die or they'll recruit them, but to have the confidence of them losing their money. And I sat down with a regional leader making 100,000 when I was probably making 40,000 as regional leader. And I was armed with, I was going to be honest. I was going to have integrity. I was going to call them back. I don't know if the market's going to go up, it's going to go down, but I'm going to be honest with them and I'm going to treat their money like it's my money. And I got a client I just met with last week and they go, remember, you put our money where your in-laws' money is. And so we're like your in-laws. And we just smile, and they've been clients of mine for 15 years. But once I settled that I was at least going to treat them like friends, treat them like family, or treat their money like my money, my confidence just went up. But I wish I would have learned faster. And that's why I think the blessing of this MPI is really so helpful for people to plug into.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, you said you can still build a big team and have a big investment business. And sometimes you look at a lot of people in my business, as soon as they move into the investment world, they find the money rolling so easy, they abandon recruiting and building. And in a lot of cases, they came here to build something, but then they abandon that. What do you do to help people avoid that?
I don't think there's anything more exhilarating than a new recruit. I still feel that way, right? I just got a new direct yesterday. And I've rolled over $1 million in one shot and 500,000 a bunch of times, but that doesn't feel as exciting as a new recruit that could be an RVP to me. So that's what we try to keep instill. Don't ever underestimate the power of overrides. Right? Jimmy Meyer taught us, I love overrides, and it is the greatest thing on the face of the planet when overrides start coming in. I mean, it's just like somebody said, they thought they got mispaid by the company. Or I'm like, how do you know? You're way too small, right? If you know every dollar that's coming in, you're in the wrong business, man. So, and I joke, but not really. So I love overrides.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, people are, somebody asked about where do you see municipal bond fund environment over the next year? And then someone wants to know if you have a matrix for annuity, and that's pretty much it for questions.
Okay, yeah, so obviously munis are down year to date. I would absolutely stay the course with them. I think there's a high demand and a low supply. I think interest rates will hopefully stabilize here soon. But the biggest thing I would stress with your non-qualified accounts is don't put all of it in one fund, right? Because the second you do that, that municipal bond fund has a rough year, right? When you told the client it's going to be stable, it's going to be conservative, that's what happens, right? So be diversified, have other things in there is important. And then, I can post something on Telegram that talks about when to use which annuity and why. And Kurt Poole, if you're still on, buddy, if you want to kind of highlight next week, I know we're looking forward to hearing you.
Yeah, well, hey, next week, we're going to go in a whole bunch of different areas. We're going to have some managed account talk. We're going to talk about using Morningstar. We're going to talk about overcoming objections. We're going to talk about client service and follow-up.
Awesome. Sounds like a great show. Hey, Dave and Josh, thanks for hopping on today.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yep, appreciate it. Have a good
Hey.
day, guys.
Thank
Go
you.
Tiger.